Coach K, hey, thanks for joining me today on this simple coach to coach interview. For those who are not knee deep in it with us, we've been talking already for the last 25 minutes. So this is now the portion of the conversation where we get to talk about Central and the things you're doing and the successes you've had. So thank you for joining, as always, and it's your, again, of all the coaches, you're tops in my book. When I get to talk to you, it's always one of the great conversations I have in a year. So
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm even loving that hat that you're rocking after Christmas.
yeah,
Good to
you know
see
what?
that.
You notice how good I look in it too. Like, I don't know if it's the hat or it's the face, but I suspect it's the hat. But
Well, we're off to a good start.
yeah, good start to 2025. Hey, as always, great to talk to you. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to influence your response. So I'm just going to leave it out there and let you go to town.
Okay.
How do you think your season went?
I thought we had a great season, to be honest. 11, 7-2 overall. Always good when you get in double-digit wins. I think we could have done more in league. We finished fifth in league. We wanted to get top four and host, so we didn't quite attain that goal. However, for the first time in program history, we beat Dubuque at Dubuque in the conference tournament to make it to go back to Dubuque again and play Loris in the semifinals. So I think it's all give and take. It's all a balance. We had some great non-conference wins. We had some great conference wins. We had some draws in conference that we felt we should have done enough to win. So we were a little disappointed with a few of those results. But I would say overall a pretty darn good season.
Yeah, I'm just looking through your schedule, and it looked, again. I just judged based on the scores. I don't think I may have watched your loss to Dubuque at Dubuque, not your during the regular season, not the conference tournament.
Yep.
But you're pretty much they're all they're 1 goal games, right, for the most part. So I'm always curious, like, was there, like, how close were you, do you think, to turning those scores, right?
Great question. I'm still answering that. I think really close. I think that was part of some of the frustration at times. But I also think, soccer's a tricky game where we, drew some of those matches where maybe we could have lost as well.
Mhm.
So I think going back to your original point, I think those 7 losses came by 1 goal.
Yeah,
And we also had a lot of games that we won by 1 goal.
yeah.
So it was kind of give or take. The only two games we lost by multiple goals were against top 25 teams, against Loris and Simpson.
Simpson.
And our team knows after those matches in the regular season, the teams that beat us, Loris and Simpson, by multiple goals, they should have, and they did.
Yeah, yeah,
We weren't. They were better on the day. They beat us.
yeah.
However, every one of those other games that we lost and or won, we were in it, and I think it could have gone either way. So I think to have a stingy defense, to also be able to score in matches maybe this year that we maybe didn't the year prior as well in some of those bigger matches, I think that was huge for us. So no, I think I'm still trying to answer some of those draws. Hopefully we had wins, but that's the nature of the business,
Yeah.
right?
I'm a top-notch investigative reporter, so they tell me. So that's why I ask the hard questions. Um,
Yep.
hey, I mean, I'll just to draw a stake in the ground or a line in the sand, whatever the way it's said. What was your feeling? You went most of September. You beat Illinois 3-0, and then you go into you play Platteville, Simpson, Dubuque, which are 3 straight losses. What was your sense going into those 3 games? And was there something about those 3 games that either captured a moment that you guys were experiencing at Central, or something just was off, or was it literally that's the way the soccer gods go?
A bit of scheduling. I mean, we had three, like you hit on the head. Three of those teams are ranked top five in the
Yeah,
region. Two of those three teams ranked top 25 or received votes. So that was just
yeah,
the schedule, like back to
yeah,
back to
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah.
It was really really tough, and it was one home and two away. So
Mhm,
that kind of I think we got to dig our teeth into some tough losses,
mhm,
and that propelled us to some draws later in the season that we snuck some things out, like Wartburg. We were able to earn a draw at Wartburg
mhm.
on that day. We were disappointed with our draw against Luther because statistically we felt that we pretty much did really well that game, two
Yeah,
wins. But at the end of the year, like you said, we went on a streak and we were one of the hottest teams.
yeah,
When you wanted to peak during that time, into September,
yeah,
October, we were hot.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah,
I think that tough week, we were able to learn some things from our team, and we were able to come back from it and really put out a good performance when we start
yeah,
getting the league and the league tournament.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, not to say there was something like it turned your because you bounced back from that. I mean, pretty remarkably, not remarkably, but you went on a sequence of games where you didn't lose until your last game of the season against Loris, which like we talked about. Loris was like the ultimate in undefeatables, no ties, no nothing, right? Like
Right.
they made it to the tournament and all that stuff. So I'm always just curious about that, especially it's interesting too, just looking at it, right? The timing of it. I always say like the end of September, beginning of October, um, out of conference, you're going into conference is to me the trickiest time of the season because there's psychological there's you have the weight of everything that happened. You have the anticipation of what's going to happen. And if your mindset is not in the right spot, like you can go down a bad route for the rest of the season. Or if you're like, hey, no, let's go, you can have a successful second half. You're right. Like,
Yeah, I think for us, we had tremendous leadership.
mhm,
We didn't sway on some of those good wins and some of those tough losses.
yeah.
Like you said, when we went on that three-game kind of streak where we had some tough losses, our morale was still high, and we're still training, and we're still putting the team first. And I think that allowed us to have the success that we did in middle October, end of October when we needed it.
Yeah.
So that was nice to see.
Yeah.
And we were a little banged up during that time. We had a couple players not
Yeah.
travel starters to Platteville, and it was a
Hmm.
3-2 loss. So we
Yeah.
played tough, and statistically they should have won. They
Yeah.
put it to
Yeah.
it, so we were well in to keep it within one goal.
Right.
But like you said, we were in every game, so
Yeah.
it didn't matter. We were still in every match, and that was nice to
Yeah.
see as a coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes that has the effect that you want it to. It just sort of makes them hungrier to, hey, I don't want this to happen again, right? Like it sort of sets you off. It's the ones where you stumble bad. And
Yep.
it's like it's a combination of the score looks bad, the soccer was terrible, right? Like, and then those are the ones that hurt, right? Because then
Yep.
they those carry and then they start to question. But I will say, and this is just because you do a great job of you send me stuff like that you're doing and I'm always impressed by and you mentioned it sort of leadership on the team and the things you do around leadership and how you how you put responsibility on the upperclassmen to make sure to bring that along. Maybe could you talk about that because you mentioned you said you had great leadership and what does that look like for you and how that plays out during the season?
Great question. I think it's part of our three C's: our ethos, confidence, consistency, commitment. Since 2011, since I've been here, there's been ups and downs with that over the
Mhm.
years at Central. Because I mean, 14 years—that's a long time to be in any one place. But I would say the values, the standards that we set, and we really hit them hard the past few years to really remind the women of that. I think it's been tops, and I think this year was evident of that. So I think you had seniors that were some good leaders on the team that were loyal and stuck through the process and stuck through the COVID times. You
Mhm.
know what I mean, and the tough times, and and I think that was important to see. We had a fifth year come back, and she scored some good goals for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
We had some seniors that were they're starting coming off the bench that gave us good points, and then we had some juniors as well that upperclassmen really led. So our captaincy group, Mimi Pavelka, Bailey Housingay, Nicole St. Clair, our captains really steered the ship.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had some seniors and super seniors that really helped too. Abby Fry was a fifth year. Amber Santana was a senior. Grace Coates was a senior. Jaden Jacobs was a senior. And when you have that meshing together, then it's kind of self-taught to the younger players.
Mm-hmm.
I think the younger players picked up on that. I think we recruited a bunch of winners. So
Mm-hmm.
you had younger players that were put in big moments that were freshmen and sophomores or transfers that were in those moments before in club or high school or at their previous school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice mix to
Mm-hmm.
answer the question. And I think it all starts from the top. And I think our leaders, whether they were juniors, seniors, or both, or super seniors, I think they did a great job
Yeah.
of ship this year.
I mean, this is a softball, I think, but like, how important is it for you as the coach to have this team culture, this atmosphere where these upperclassmen are showing and leading the younger players in all of those things that you talked about, just in being leaders? Like, how much easier is that for you when that sort of when that happens?
It is easier. um, it's that's the beauty of coaching. I think in a program that has standards and a culture, I think yeah, you can win league, you can do all these things, but you can do that with saying four-letter words and being
Hmm.
punks, playing the
Yeah,
right way. That's not us.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
we try not to let that be us. And I think that matriculates on down to the younger players, and we can be more selective in our vetting process of
Hmm.
who do we want in our program, why do we want them, and then we can match them up with other players or upperclassmen on overnights and
Hmm.
or clinics or camps, and they can really get to know the layers of Central Soccer.
Hmm.
And I think when you have that, when they come here, they already know, Coach, what we're about. We go over stuff in the preseason. We have PowerPoints and we have all
Hmm.
that stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I think you can have all that stuff in the writing and the mantras, but until you get
Hmm.
out there and are in the thick of things,
Hmm.
that's when you know what you're made of. And I think
Yeah,
this year they were looking at us in the eyes. They were nodding.
yeah,
They were determined.
yeah,
And that's what you love to see as a coach. And I think
yeah,
our women had that in spades.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So how does that set you up for 2025? Like, what, how you're, and I'm not necessarily talking wins and losses, like, how your team was, the personality of this team this year. How does that position you for 2025, knowing that you're probably having some of these great leaders graduate?
Um, Yeah, I mean, there's always uncertainty. That's a great part about coaching. Each year is a different year. And an old coach here that is doing great things at Aurora, Adam Stevens,
Mm-hmm.
excellent baseball coach, or top 20, top 25, top 10. He
Mm-hmm.
told me once, he said, last year ain't going to win you any games this year. I said, that is a really good line because, last year can teach you some things, but last year is last year.
Last
You
year's
got to
last year.
come in and it's a new slate, and however good or bad you did doesn't matter because
Mm-hmm.
you have a new group of players. And I think our women, I know they're hungry. I know they want more, but I also know that they know what it takes to do more to get that. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So it's easy to say, especially 18 and 21-year-olds, I want that. Well,
yeah,
you got to do this, 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 and this to get to that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think trick sometimes the last few years where we were trying to find that hurdle. Okay, now we're fit. Now we're doing this. This is allowing us to get to that, but we've got to do the blood, sweat, and tears
yeah,
and
yeah,
have those tough moments. And I think that is what these women have learned the most, and I think that's what they're hungry for the most for 2025.
mm-hmm.
And I think we're on a way that I think is going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Success is never given, right? Like, you do have to earn it. And I don't, everyone. I think that's a hard lesson for younger folks to really understand that. Like, success is not going to come your way just because you think you deserve the success. You have to put in the hard work, the dark work, right? Like, or workouts in the dark or whatever it's called. Like, you have to do that to to succeed. Wait,
Yeah.
because we're going off a tangent in my mind. Like, it got me really thinking about different things. But did you play anybody or any other program where just their whatever you witnessed and played against and the kids and all that stuff, you were kind of like, wow, if we could be like that, because you never want to be like somebody else, but if we could sort of have that same team chemistry culture, man, we would just, right, like it would just take us to a different level. Was there anything like that? Do you notice any? Do you pay attention to that?
We do, and you don't know unless you're in it.
Yeah,
So you only see kind of third person what that
yeah,
like. I'll say, and I know you're going to have them on your show later. The Simpson game, they were hungry. They were
mm-hmm.
first to a lot of the balls. Um, they showed us that day why they were ranked, and we were
Mm-hmm.
we were ranked in the region, but they were
Yeah,
ranked in the nation, and
national, yeah,
and, and I think there was a bit of that difference in it, and it sucks to say because that's a rival of ours, but I have to be honest and truthful. Um, but I think going to Loris, like Loris beat us 3-0 in the regular season
yeah,
at their. I mean, it was a long day, but
yeah,
we were competing. But then when we got to play them again, and then in the tournament, and we were fighting for everything, and
yeah,
Matt will tell you that at Loris, we were. I'm not saying we were a different opponent, but we had a
yeah,
different way
yeah.
about us, and I think we saw what they had as far as the winning mentality and that sort
Mm,
of cutthroat mentality and score again, and we didn't want to have that feeling again when we played him again. So we really hunkered in deep, and
yeah,
we changed some things around a little bit in our training, and I think that kept us to that real tight score line, which is still painful in that
yeah.
match, losing on a penalty in the 83rd minute.
Oh,
But
is that one? Ooh.
yeah, and there's some other things that went on that I don't have enough time to chat with you about on the call, but I would say those two opponents in league, because that's what you know most, right? The league, as far as
Yeah, yeah,
conference, you'll see a team one day and you're like, oh, they're good or they need
yeah,
improvement. But I would say those two teams, like that winning mentality, and they both play kind of a different style. Um, but I think we didn't want to emulate that per se. But
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it showed us what it took, and we did it in our own way when we
yeah,
matched up against Loris again, and then I'm hoping
yeah,
against Simpson next year. They're going to see a little different
yeah,
central side as well.
yeah.
Does that
Yeah,
answer your question? I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're, I always wondered that, and it is true. Like, unless you're in it, you really don't know sort of how things are working. But I am a firm believer that y- you don't have to say anything. Once you step out on the field and you watch a team go through 90 minutes and all the things that you go through in 90 minutes, you pretty much can see what they're made, like the metal that of which they're made, right? Like, so
Yep.
if they're arguing amongst each other and yelling and all of it, you kind of know what's going on when they're not on the field or when they're not. Like, it's very, to me, it ends up being very revelatory in that way. And so I was just curious about that and sort of the things that you notice. And like I said, sometimes you have to, and you bring up Loris, right? Like, you have to, sometimes you have to get beat to learn the lesson of how to win. And you didn't do that against Loris in the tournament, but you got close, right? Like, it just sound, it's like you almost got there. And so
Yep.
maybe there's a lesson there. Like, okay, we thought that it took this. It actually takes this to get it done. So what are we going to do this so that next time we get them? I'm
Well,
always
I'll take a
curious.
step back from that. Dubuque, we always when we in Berna, he's the longest tenured. I'm the second longest tenured in the league. We're similar age-ish. Both come from the old IAG days. He was at
Mm,
Loris, I was at Central. So we have a lot of themes. Our women play hard. Their women play hard. We lost 1-0 at their place in season. The game that you watched, we felt it was an even
mm-hmm,
game. Could have gone either way. Then we did some things, tweak some things around. Not major, but subtle, and we were able to be up 2-0, and we ended up winning 2-1 at their place for the first time ever to then go to Loris. That's not easy to do. And they were ranked
Mhm.
in the region all year. And
Yeah.
Byrne is an excellent coach, and Dubuque's an excellent program. And that was a defining moment for us
Mhm.
this year. So to go back to your point on what it took to do that and then succeed and get
Yep.
to that level. We did that to
Yeah.
put us into a chance to play a top five team. I think they were
Yeah.
second time in the NPI rankings,
Yeah.
Loris, and it was 1-0, and it was a
Yeah.
PK that decided in the 83rd minute. You can't
Yeah.
get any closer than that
No.
to get to the hopeful the
Yeah.
finals.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to be in those games, like win or lose. It's like you're never going to get anywhere if you're not in those games or you're not competing at that level, right? Like
Exactly.
it's just otherwise, it's you're just not. It just that's yeah. So, uh, what game do you think you were like hitting on all cylinders?
Oh, good question. We had some non-conference wins that were,
Uh,
I felt we really showed some grit. River Falls, tough opponent. They're ranked in the region, I think, for a week or two as well. We beat them 2-1 at our place. Uh, Whitewater, we opened up with them, beat them 3-0. They're a perennial top 20, top 25 team.
they're always good. I hate Whitewater. I hate like in every sport. Anyhow, sorry.
Yeah, so we beat them 3-0 to open up the year. I'm like, okay, we got something here. But I would say all cylinders. I mean, we had at the end of the year, coach, we had I think it was 5-0, Nebraska Wesleyan 6-0 before we ended up getting to Dubuque and Loris again
Hmm.
at the year. And we were scoring some worldies. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I
we
saw
were,
some videos that somebody
oh,
sent me.
yeah, you might have. You definitely did, but we scored some worldies and we defended like madmen and just didn't give up any shots. And
Mm,
I would say that, and then those two games, and then playing Loris at Loris, and then Dubuque the game before that. Those are the two matches that stick out to me for in conference
mhm.
as far as getting close to the tournament time. That we really showed our grit, and you want to do that at the end of the year, and we did
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that leaves a good feeling in your mouth going into the next year as
yeah,
well.
yeah. You definitely want to peak at the right time, right? I would say peaking in preseason is not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Like it's a problem. It's a ski slope, and you're not going to be in the best place. Who best team you played?
Best team or
Well,
or
we're going to start with best team, and then I'm going to ask you the best player. That's a new question for me.
oh,
I'm sorry, this is recorded, and so just be careful about bulletin board material. That's not my fault.
yeah, no, I think again when we played Simpson at our place, they were a team. They were first to a lot of the balls.
Uh-huh.
They pounded us. They scored some nice goals. That was that was a learning moment. Um, obviously you have to go Loris. I mean, they went 20-0-2
Yeah.
for you can't take anything away from that. Different style of play than us and a lot of teams, but they're good at what they do, and you got
Yeah.
to respect that. And so I'd say again, going to those two, I would say in our league, Simpson Loris were the two best teams, and then out of league, we played some really tough teams. Basically, a third of the MIAC.
Yeah.
Whitewater, Platteville, they were ranked, and they had some consideration for an at-large
Uh-huh.
bid. River Falls, they were really tough, but I would probably stick within our league coach.
Mhm.
Loris and Simpson, the top two in our league, were probably the two toughest.
Yeah. I was I didn't watch Simpsons, so before I interview the coach there, I promised to see if I can't find video and I'll watch a couple games just because. But I will say I thought Loris was forced to be reckoned with. Like I just like you said, you kept tough as nails to break down in all parts of the field. That's the part that I thought was kind of remarkable when I watched them. It was just hard. Like you never thought you had. I never thought the other team had an advantage, no matter where they were on the field. Like it was like, oh my gosh, Loris is going to do something. So, um, best player.
Well, um, I'm gonna answer that two ways. I think one of the best players that we played non-league, Lombardi, a center mid for Platteville. She was a transfer from Illinois State. She kind of ran the show for Platteville. I would say she was really really tough. And then in our own conference, I've got to split that with probably three. I can't go one coach. I got to go three or four.
But that's
I
okay. That's a politician's answer. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, obviously you got Cassie Nash, the forward for Simpson. She had a good day against us. Very tough. She was, I think, a sixth year senior, so she's
Uh-huh.
been a long time.
And she know, yeah, she
Um,
knows the drill.
she does. And then Savannah Johnson was a fifth year for Loris. And both of those were offensive player of the years in our league. They were very tough. But I also, Reagan Lindsay, the first time we played her, was a center mid All American for Loris. She really ran the show. The second time we played them, we had a freshman kind of man mark her a bit, and she still was dangerous. But I think overall, she took all their set pieces, their throws, their kicks, their corners. Um, she was a very solid overall player. And the last two I can speak of more heartily because it was down to us and them and maybe
Mhm.
one other school. But I recruited them, so I know them a little bit more than Cassie. And I
Uh,
just they're two quality kids and really, really have grit, really want to win, and really helped out Poochie there at Loris. And so I would say those three or four players in non-league and league would be the players I would highlight outside of
so
my team.
what's that?
Outside of my own team.
Outside of your team, yeah, yeah, yeah. That caveat, you don't have to express that. I already accept that. Like outside of your own team, that is perfectly. I find that perfectly legit. And I will say part of the reason for my asking that question, and I'm probably going to divulge. I'll divulge it just because I'll hear the trumpets. Savannah Johnson, I thought was the bomb. Different level type of player. I'll just say that. Like and at some point, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll come out with my best 11 women's soccer, and so that's how I know Savannah Johnson. So you can
Yeah,
infer she's the bomb. I thought she was there, and don't get me wrong, ton of great players out there, like just different level type players. But I thought she was definitely one of them. So,
for sure.
um, all right, so looking at 2025, where like let's start with the let's start with the basics. How many maybe this is easy. How many roster spots do you think you have, give or take?
What do you mean by that question? As far as like who we
Like
lost?
who you're losing? Yeah, graduating. Yeah.
Yeah, so we graduate four.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would say three or four, two or three roster spots, or three or four roster spots that we're looking to fill. As
Mm-hmm.
far as
Yeah.
from those that graduate, we return a good amount, Coach. I mean, I'd say seven or eight of
Wow.
our 11 are returning.
Wow.
Uh,
Really?
so yeah, it's a nice place to be. But
That's
we
a
do
great
lose.
place to be. Holy smokes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think we're only going to continue to get better. But that's not taking anything
Yeah.
away from what we lost. Like
Yeah.
they really helped build the program to where it is now. We were ranked again in the region,
Yeah.
first time I think since 2021. So we were a few years out of it. They helped bring us back into it, and our team
Yeah.
and our coaches. So I think we return a lot. We lose some, three or four, like I said, starters, and or players that first off the bench. But I think they've left it in a better place. We've built our program where it's next man up, and we're on it.
I will say, excluding the senior class, the three seniors in the fifth year, so the four players that are graduating, like you're really balanced. Like
Yeah,
you're not like class heavy, like sometimes I look at these rosters and I'm like, man, in 2 years you're going to graduate 23 players. Good luck with that. It doesn't. So yeah, if you want to continue rolling, I'm just that anyhow. That
yeah. I like how you worded that as far as the classes. We're balanced. Appreciate you seeing that and noticing that, and you can do that as a coach. Like you see
yeah.
those. That's true, and it's for a purpose. But I also think from our scoring this year. We were so bad. It wasn't just one or two players you had to key on. We literally had 6 or 7 women in double digit points.
Yeah.
So over 10 points, over 15 points, we had at least 6 or 7 women at that. So you couldn't
Yeah.
scout us and say, okay, stop these two people. We had
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 women off the bench
Yeah.
starting, didn't matter, that were getting multiple double digit points
Yeah.
throughout the year. So we were a really tough team to scout. On the flip side, defensively, really, really sound as far as from younger ages to older ages. And we only conceded 19, I think 19
Yeah.
goals, top five in program history. So we were really stingy. And in my opinion, we had one of the best keepers in the league. That Loris game, she had 14 or 15 saves. She stood
Yeah.
on her head at Loris in the tournament game.
Yeah.
She, for me, is one of the best goalkeepers, not only in the conference but in the region.
Yeah.
And I think we have some of the best defenders in the region, midfielders. I think we have a very balanced. I
Yeah.
can't just point out 1, 2, 3 women.
Yeah.
We have a very balanced and hungry team. Any block from goalkeeper up to forward, and any age, and
Yeah.
that's a difficult team to
That's
scout and prep for.
yeah. Yeah. You're never in those scenarios. What I generally find, some teams have like the occasional, not the occasional, but they'll have that one like super special player, like that one in whatever class. But usually, I find when I look at balanced teams, what you find is you have, like you said, the next man up, right? Like, hey, I carried the load last game, and then somebody else over there on the right side decides to pick up the slack, and they become the player for the team. And then the next game, it's the back. It's amazing what the back did. They were they play. Like you find that a lot more, I think, against when it is balanced. And I think part of the problem with teams that rely on that one or two special players, I think they this is terrible, and I'm judging, but like it strikes me like they lose sight of the stuff with the world without them. They're
Yes.
like, hey, we become reliant on these folks. Hey, how great it is! Nobody else can. They can't stop them, and you forget like there's this whole other thing that has to happen in years to come. That if you rely on those one players, you can forget that really quickly. And
No,
I
I
can
think
point to example after teams, example after example, for whatever reason they were great that year. Graduate injury struggle for a while. So
yeah,
I think
and um, I think for our program since 2011, I mean we've averaged a top 4.5 finish of nine teams in our league.
yeah,
Winning record, I think 12 or 13 years. You don't do
yeah,
that without balance.
yeah,
And I think this year we got a taste again for just how good we could be and what's left out there that we need to be and we need
yeah,
to get to and we're hungry for, but we know how to do it. Does that make
yeah,
sense? I think
yeah,
we're
yeah,
kind of that gap of, I think you asked me last year, like, how do you do that next level? And they're like, I think I answered it. We're still trying to figure it out.
yeah,
I think we figured that out. I'm not saying fully amount because we still made the tournament, played in that,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. But I think we know what it takes, and we know what it takes to get there, and we're hungry for it, and we
yeah,
believe we can do it
yeah,
by actions and our belief.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the that's the that's the rub, right? Like you once you figure out what needs to be done, the next question is, are you willing to do what needs to be done? Are you bought in? And if you're
Well,
bought in, there is a much your ceiling just goes exponentially, because I'm convinced like if you're not willing, you're not bought in, there's a lot of stuff in your head like, no, you'll reach a very low peak because you're preventing yourself from
yeah.
reaching that
Well,
height.
as Roy Williams said for UNC basketball, I think I've told you this before. He said, "You want it. There's no magic potion, magic trick. If you
Yeah,
want it, you want to be better. You got to sweat more.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you got to
That's it.
you
That's
got to
it.
do it,
That's
and you got
right.
to spend the time.
Yeah,
And I think our women have that. But I think also, Coach, they have that, but they know how to get that out of others better.
yeah, yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
And when
yeah,
they,
yeah. That's the leadership culture piece that we were talking about earlier. If you get that right, that being able to get that out of other players becomes easier. And it's not you being like, come on, you didn't lift today, whatever it is. You didn't lift today, or you didn't run today. Where are you? What do you not want? like it's not you saying that, it becomes the the the, the leaders on the squad that sit there and be like, hey, we got to really double down in commitment here, and if you're not willing to do it, that's fine, but we know, right? And to hold people accountable, right? So
And I
I think,
think the humbling part of that is
mm-hmm,
so I played for Gary 25 years ago now at
right,
Central, and this is going to sound back in the day, 20 pounds ago, I was an okay player, and Central's first all region player long ago.
yeah,
But
like 5 years ago, long ago, yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
yeah, no, those days are past. But Gary would always tell me it's not because I was better. It's not
yeah,
because skill level. I mean, you have to have some skill, but it's the
yeah,
heart, it's determination, and it's how you, when I was a captain for him, how you get others to row that boat with you. That I think I had some different qualities that
yeah,
that I think our women now, they have that.
yeah,
They are really getting that, but they're also humble. So they're
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
"What I need to be better." Them as leaders are saying, "I could have done this better." Or if they
yeah,
get subbed off, they're not putting their head down. They're looking at
yeah,
every
yeah,
girl, high five.
yeah,
That that's telling, and I think that our women, our leaders, do that, and that's
yeah.
what's pleasing for me to see as a coach.
Yeah, yeah. Well, those are the types of actions that, right, where the it shows that the team is greater than me,
Yes,
right? If you sub me off and my head is down, and I look at the pros and they all like it always amazes me, like because they're pros and they make gobs of money and it's easier to fire a coach than it is to fire a player. But there are times I just sit there and be like, what a petulant little kid, and how toxic you must be because you didn't like that you were subbed off 5 minutes till the end of the game. Right?
yep,
It's like, there's something that are, and I think in college soccer, I think, and that's why I love D3, right? I think that there's almost like an ethos to that. Like you're playing Division 3, not for yourself, but because you love the part of being part of a team and all the things that come with that. And so,
exactly.
I mean, stuff I notice. All right, can I ask you some? Uh, can I ask you about the transfer portal? Do you? I may have asked you to do this last year, but especially now with all the scrunched um, D1 rosters. Like, are you seeing anything out of that? Is that, and you had a graduate or have had a graduate player? Like, is that something that you're paying attention to, like trying to find players, or are you? There are some coaches who are just like, I'm just not going to play that game necessarily. I'm going to go look for the talent that I need to look for. That makes
I
sense.
think I'm more the latter.
Yeah,
I'm more old school in my philosophy. I got that from Gary. The
yeah,
office next to me, he's been here 27 years. I've been here 14. We're not dinosaurs. We don't
yeah,
think we are. Well, we kind of are, I guess, with the
yeah.
years we've been here. But also we have some set values. Like we're not going to look for the next cheapest thing, or
Mm-hmm.
buy some.
Yeah, yeah.
We
The
don't have the money.
shortcut.
Yeah,
It's a shortcut a little bit. Like,
I think so. I don't spend a lot of time in the portal. I can't
mhm,
lie and say I've not been in it. I've seen
yeah,
it. Players, okay, there's D2, D3.
yeah,
I've written some over the years. I haven't got a lot of success for it, therefore, I don't really get into it too much.
yeah.
Where I have had success, coach, is the 30-day self-release kids that have contacted me
Uh
and
huh.
have my school. So, do you know about that 30-day
No,
self-release?
no.
So you have it with D3 to D3, kind of a 30-day self-release period where you sign something and you have up until 30 days to contact as many coaches as you want, that
Oh,
sort of
wow.
thing. And then after that, it kind of goes not
Yeah,
defunct, but kind of your time to
yeah,
research school.
yeah.
So what they do is they actually research the school and the major, and they spend time getting to know you.
Ahead of time.
Yes, not
Yeah,
not you writing someone. Well, what can you give me? Or
yeah, yeah,
I didn't start, I didn't play, and
yeah,
why are you leaving? Well, this is why. That's already been vetted.
yeah.
So for us, we had two 30-day self-release kids that came to us last year. Been great. We had another, well, three, I should say. We had another one come to us from a school in Wisconsin. She's been fantastic.
Hmm.
We have another transfer coming at semester. She didn't play Division 2. She played club ball for Division 2, but she was kind of in our recruiting process. It was down to us and them, and she's coming back. So that's where we get more of our success. Not the.
Hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of the portal. I'm not a huge fan of reaching out there and trying to throw out 300
Yeah, yeah.
emails to
Yeah.
300 girls D1 to D3
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the middle
Yeah.
to what can you give them. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
my philosophy. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Have you when you're doing these interviews with D3s? What has been your take?
I think it's a mix. I think the middle road position, if there is such a middle road, is that coaches entertain the transfer portal with kids who they have some knowledge of either from previous recruiting or their local kids
Right.
that moved away. I think it's dawning, not dawning on people. Like I make it sound like it's so like revelatory. I don't think it is, but you learn to discover that there are reasons why kids are in the transfer portal,
Yes.
right? And it's not always just because, oh, I don't like the school,
Yes.
right? And sometimes that can be very telling. And if you're not aware, you're inherent. You run the risk. And I know of some coaches who have commented like, there's baggage that was not welcome at their old school, and that's why they're in the transfer portal and they're bringing that baggage or brought that baggage to me. And I think that's sort of like the middle of the road is that I want, if I'm going to get a kid, I want to know. I want to know who this kid is. Again, through past experience, somebody knows, but to blindly go out and just be like you said, I'm going to shotgun approach, just going to shovel in as many emails and contact information as I can and barrel through that list. I don't think anyone's doing that.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
unless I could see it would make sense if you're, you know, right, like you're a school that you're 04 whatever, and you're just trying to sort of get some influx of something to sort of start a, hey, can we get the ball
Yeah.
rolling? I understand that, and I'm not discounting that, but I think all the established programs, yeah, I don't think they're doing the shotgun.
And for us, our culture is such a big thing, or we try to
Yeah,
make it a thing that we don't want that. Like the kids that have been the third day self release contact me have been phenomenal,
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
They've been very honest because I'll ask them like why, what's going
yeah,
on, your experience. I'll vet them,
yeah,
and I say I want honesty. I don't want fluff. I don't want,
yeah,
and I don't want you bashing the
yeah,
old coach because
yeah,
I know that person or persons as well.
yeah, yeah.
So you can have your opinions. You're entitled to them, but just keep in mind too that
Yeah,
both ways.
yeah. Like the word you used earlier, like just being humble, and I think respectful. I think is so I always go back and forth, like about talking about things that I see and hear. Like I don't. I think it's just to be respectful. Be respectful of where you're coming from. Be respectful of the coach that you had. It might not have worked out, and I think that's part of the problem. I don't know if a lot of the kid. I can't say this for certainty. It's my gut. Is a lot of the kids in the portal end up being kids who never faced the adversity that they might have faced when they got to where they were at. And they're
Yes.
like, something is wrong with the place. Not necessarily that I'm a young player, or, you know,
Yep.
like I'm competing at a much different
Right.
level, all that kind of stuff.
But I will say to if I could like have like a two
Yeah,
B on that or a 3C
yeah,
answer off that, it is the 2025. Like I mean, for us to have three or four transfers, that's not really normal for our program,
yeah,
but we're getting them. That's the norm now,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
D3s losing a kid or two at semester that either
yeah,
do the portal, 30-day self release. That's what it is. So that is where we're at, even
yeah,
Division three. And I think our schools know that. Central knows that. Other schools in the league
yeah,
know
yeah,
that. You'll
yeah,
see schools in our league that'll get transfers from interleague
yeah,
teams, and you're like, wow. So we are there. I don't. I have different opinions on whether
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
good or bad, but
But that's the reality, right? There's a fluidity among
yes, that's what I'm trying.
players now, which is why I think actually initial recruitment process, I think becomes, and the coaches I talk to, becomes that much more important.
Right.
It is no longer transactional, right? Like it is not come to my school. you'll play. There's the transaction. It is more like, hey, I want to get you through, I want to go through a process with you so that by the time I say come to my school to play, I know all the good and all the bad that you could bring to this program. Because
Exactly.
and and it goes again, one of my other crazy, and I've mentioned this before, it's taken you 14 years, 14, right? 14 years to get to where you are now, where you have these women leading the team for the young, right? Like you have this whole cycle of year in and year out where you have people step into roles, lead, younger folks learning, coming through. It's taken you 14 years. And I bet you if you if you brought on even just one kid, it could be destroyed like like in a season, less than a season, right? It could totally destroy that work so that it's like 14 years down, not down the tubes, but I got to start over and I got to reinvent the wheel. And so I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think no, and each program is different on their philosophy and how they do it, and the success and
Yeah.
what's different. Than, to them, to Loris, to Simpson, to Wartburg, to Dubuque, to Luther, and Central, and BV and Co. and Nebraska Wesleyan. We have a very tough league, and
Mm-hmm.
each coach is different in how they run things. It doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent. It's just what they
Yeah.
believe. And I think for us, we have a certain set of standards and values, and we stick to them, and
Yeah.
we believe in our product,
Yeah.
and we're happy with it. So,
Well, I will say too, right? Like, and we've talked about this a little bit and just sort of my research and right, like, hey, Central is a good school that you want to stay at. You know, there are some schools, if I'm honest, right? Like, there are some schools it's like, hey, you're going to that school to play ball because, right, in of itself, the school isn't going to be what you would be looking for. You wouldn't say, hey, that's a school I'd want to go to. You're sort of got attracted to it through soccer. Soccer goes away. The school doesn't carry it. Central doesn't strike me as a place like that,
yeah,
right? Central strikes me as a place like, hey, if I'm not playing soccer for whatever the reason, I'm still happy to be at Central.
yeah, and that's what our admin believe,
Yeah.
our school, our ethos. But that's also, Coach, why we offer different things like Europe trips.
Yeah. Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Jan Freund to the Netherlands and Germany every 4 years, to have a unique experience that gets you outside of your comfort zone. That's part of it too, and that's what
Yeah.
makes it special
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
that's
by the
why you're
way,
learning Dutch, by the way, right?
is it Babel? Is it Babel? I don't
Yeah.
know what the app is called. But yeah, I'm doing on my commute. I'm thinking, you know what? I've gone 4 times with Central, 5 times since 2011
And you
overall.
still don't speak a lick or how to ask for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, well, I need to de-Americanize myself and
Yeah.
understand that, hey, when you go to other cultures, you might want to learn a little bit their language a little more. And I'm not going to say I'm going to be successful if we go in 2027 again, if I'm going to learn speak Dutch, but I did pay for an app, Coach, and I
Yeah.
do it every day on my commute to Central from Des Moines. Some days better than others, and I'm trying. But that's when
You
it gets
didn't
right.
pick you didn't pick an easy language like,
Oh,
hey, maybe I'll try to learn Scottish. Like it's like no. I'm gonna pick something that's really gonna make my brain warp.
well, it's already learned in the first few days. There's some cool things about it as far
Yeah.
as it is very difficult. That is
Yeah.
no also some things that we use in the English language that do
Yeah.
carry over to the Dutch language. I'm like, okay, this is good for me to start here and learn. But no, I mean it's I love the fact that we do it and then we go and here's my plug now, Coach. If we go in 2027, you're made aware now. Uh, but also that
I will bring Mike, I will bring camera, and I'll live it up. I'll be that guy. Like your team will almost be like, oh, there he goes again with the filming. Yeah, I would
but
totally do that. I would totally rock that. Totally.
oh man, but yeah, Jan's already contacted me again. He's like, yeah, it's about that time, Michael, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
a long ways away, but I guess it's not. But
Yeah.
no, I love going to those trips. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Izzy says, why do you even say if it's a maybe? She goes, the girls are going to guilt you to go. You're going to go, so just tell them 2027 you're going.
You know what? That's funny you say that because I remember last time, and you were like, this is probably, young kids, this is probably like the last trip. You said something to that effect, like, yeah, it's probably the last trip. And I thought, being respectful, but I thought in my head, like, yeah, like poppycock, like, like you will figure out a way. You'll kids in tow. You are so going and organizing a trip. So I am glad to hear that that is already afoot. That would be, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. All right, Coach. This was, as always, fantastic. I love talking to you. It's so much fun, and it makes me wish to be closer to actually be able to watch your games in person. It would be, I think it'd be fantastic. And I think what's so fantastic about talking to you is, of all the coaches I talked to, you put a lot of thought into, I'll just say, the things off the field. And I think that resonates with me. I always say, like, I find the actual soccer, not at all levels. I just, been watching it for 50 years. It's kind of a bore, right? Like that part of it doesn't intrigue me as much as, what does the locker room think? How do you deal with it? Like those things really get me. But so you are one of the top. So I do appreciate it. But thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And, I'm glad that you had a great Christmas season, and I'm loving the hat that I'm seeing there. And at some point, I need to give you some new swag, but
Yeah.
appreciate you doing this for
Thank you.
Division II, not only Central, but all the other coaches. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. And I will say, I'll just let the cat out of the bag, right? You and I talked about some things that could make 2025 the best rockin' season so far. So more to come on that, folks. I'll
More
just
to
leave
come.
that little more to come. So it'll be really cool. All right, Coach, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be in touch. And make sure you send me as much dirt as you can on the Simpson coach, so that when I can talk to him, like I could just totally just barrage him, like, well, you said this during the game, that's kind of bad, why'd you do that? Like, yeah,
Just
yeah,
drive that fork in
yeah,
there.
yeah. I'll just press the wounds, like,
That-
yeah.
That's
So
right.
yeah. So
All right.
anyhow, thank you, have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
All right. Fantastic. That was a good one. That was good.